I am. It's great. I'm lucky my spouse is very supportive of my career. That might allay fears that you might think the hiring manager has about your husband's career being more important than yours, ladies, or that you see this as a job until you have children, which is a stupid thing for a male interviewer or, frankly, for a female interviewer to do to a female interviewee. But okay. Another example, she asks, how old are you? Oh, man. You can answer, I'm 51. Thankfully, wisdom comes with age. I'm lucky I still have the energy I had in my 20s. Answer with a big smile, as if the interviewer had just asked after your health in a very caring way. You essentially be bold about it and take away the issue, just like Jack Ryan did in the movie.
Right. And then you follow up by saying, that was an illegal question, right?
Yeah, good.
Just to prove you're smart enough.
Perfect answer followed immediately by total ruination, right? If you say I'm not answering the question, it's illegal, the hiring manager is probably going to feel stupid that she didn't know if, in fact, that was true, and she got called out. She's going to be worried that she offended you. She's going to be confrontational if she thinks it's a reasonable question. There are only two emotions in the world, love and fear. All the emotions an interviewer will have if you call them out will be based on fear. An interviewer who associates you with fear will not hire you, period. So don't show any sign of having heard a question that it was in the least bit gray. Smile, answer cheerfully, answer with gusto. If the interviewer does have a concern, you've given a very positive response to their concern. If they don't, and they're just clumsy, you've been kind in ignoring it, and you gave a positive, enthusiastic answer. There's no downside to our recommendation here. Now, hopefully this is obvious, but this, of course, means don't leave the interview. Not calling them on their error doesn't mean just get up and leave the room, okay? That really is a different way of making the error obvious. And, of course, you'll be a subject of stories. I was doing fine. I asked a question. She answered it beautifully, and then she walked up and left. And she wouldn't answer her cell phone. Look, if you want to go to work in another department later and this hiring manager says she got up in the middle of the interview and she left, you're done.
Of course, the interviewer is going to share with her workmate the fact that the reason you did that is because she asked an illegal question.
Yeah, because she doesn't think she did, right? Of course she's not.
She'll completely share the entire story.
Right. No, she won't. She'll share the funny thing that candidates do, because that's what candidates do, funny things in interviews. And remember, folks, please remember, you may be wrong. In fact, you're probably certainly wrong. In fact, I'm going to tell you now, if you believe it's an illegal question, I guarantee you're wrong, and we'll prove it to you in a few minutes. How bad would it be to lose an opportunity you really thought was good because you left an interview or you responded badly to a question that wasn't even illegal or that had no disrespect intended at all? People are always telling us there aren't enough opportunities out there. Don't lose one over something you could have controlled. Please let's not do that. Gosh. I would call that a Romeo and Juliet. Two people want to get together, and at the end, they're both alive. Right before the end of Romeo and Juliet, they're both alive, and they both still love each other, and both still want to be together, and then they're dead. Right? I mean, I think Romeo thinks Juliet's dead, so he kills himself, and then Juliet comes out of her sleep and goes, oh my God, he's dead, I'm going to kill myself too. Right? They were both alive 5 minutes before the end. True, total tragedy. Right? Don't do that. We call that a Romeo and Juliet. When the company wants you, and you want the company, but you both end up not together. The object of an interview is to get an offer. If you see or hear something which makes you think twice about taking the offer, you can always choose not to go to work there. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for a company that will give you no reason to not accept, then you're looking in the wrong place, because this is a human world and there aren't any perfect companies out there. If in fact you get the offer, then it's your choice and you could choose to say no. If it's obviously, if it's an exceptionally egregious situation, sue them later. But you'll probably want to do that after you get a job somewhere else, after your search is complete.
Yeah, exactly. Now, our fifth point here is interview. What do you mean interview?
Yeah, look.
Of course you're in the interview.
Yeah, I know. But people, they get distracted. Don't let somebody else's stupidity or clumsiness or even evilness distract you. We just want to make it clear. This is your opportunity. The job is yours to lose. You don't get interviewed if you can't do the job, period. They will not interview somebody who's not capable of doing the job. Now, you may not be a fit. That's a different thing. But you're capable of doing the job. And so you want to be a fit. Being distracted by the interviewer's ignorance or clumsiness or naivete or even willful disagreeableness, it's your fault because it's your distraction. Okay? You're not responsible for their behaviors. They're not responsible for your response. Okay? They're poking you with a stupidity umbrella. and you're going to get distracted all by yourself. Don't let somebody else influence whether you get the offer if, in fact, you can still stay on a high plane and make sure you get it. It's the classic case of the general saying, I'm not worried about my flying, so I'm worried about the enemy, right? If you follow our guidance in the interviewing series, you'll have done a lot of preparation for this one conversation. You're going to know your strengths and weaknesses. You're going to know the experiences you want the interviewer to hear about. You've got a lot of experiences, but you want to tailor the right ones to the job that they're interviewing you for, right? You're going to want to know this stuff cold, and you want to deliver it with warmth and personality. It shouldn't take much for you to take a deep breath, regroup, move on to the next question, and nail that one too. Look, why would you want a job with such a difficult manager? In our experience, interviews are often held with more than one manager interviewing at a time. There might be a section head, a manager, and an HR representative. If the section head is asking difficult questions, but you really want to work for the company and you're likely not to have much contact with him because the manager is between you, you could ignore the fact that he's difficult after you get the job. On the other hand, if it is the manager who's asking personal questions, which makes you feel uncomfortable, but may or may not be illegal, the opportunity might still be worth the time spent working for him. And managers move on all the time. Who knows? He might be interviewing elsewhere himself. You never know. Don't figure out reasons to say no. The interview is about getting them to say yes.
Right. Getting the offer, right? That now in the interview is not the time to make the decision. Approach the interview, get the job offer, then you can make a decision.
Yeah, if you're thinking about the decision about whether or not to go to work there, you're not thinking about getting the offer to begin with. You cannot take something they don't give you. You can't accept an offer you don't have. And if in fact you start thinking about accepting or declining, you're not thinking about how do I best position myself to get an offer to begin with. They've got to give you the offer first. Worry about deciding later. Okay. You're already thinking about your interview preparation, how that fits the question. You're trying to develop a relationship. You're trying to address any concerns. That's a full-time job. Don't try adding, do I even want this job if I have to work with her, to that in the interview. Now, look, if you get the offer, add that to the equation afterwards. That happens in the next step, but not right now. In the interview, stick to your game plan, and that means interviewing. Answer the questions as best you can. Be enthusiastic, be positive, deliver with energy, deliver accurately. And just get yourself through the interview effectively the way you would any other interview.
Right. And that means at the end, whether you think there's been an illegal question or not, close. I think it's probably obvious. If you listen to the interviewing series, you know we're gonna suggest that you do everything that's in there, right?
Yeah.
And one of those things is closing. And we're saying this just because we want to be crystal clear here. Close for the offer. Say, I want the offer, and here's why I want it.
Yeah. You say you want an offer, and here's why. 7 words. I want an offer. And here's why. And then you list the 3 reasons why this company would be great to have an offer from. You can actually say that even if you're not certain whether or not you're going to take the offer. Okay. I want a Ferrari, but I don't have one. Okay. Why can you close even though you're not sure you're going to take it? Because you do want the offer. Right. Because you do want the offer, and that offer may affect other companies. And you want to find out what the salary is, and there are several different positions you're looking for, and one of them is interesting and one is less so. But you can say no to an offer. Believe me, there is a case to be made that the definition of an offer is the moment control passes from the company to the candidate. If you don't feel you're in control, in other words, if you don't feel you could say yes and they would have to give you a job, then you don't have an offer. The moment you say yes and they then give you the job is the moment you're in control. So get in control, get the offer, and it's okay. In the same way that they're interviewing 10 other people and they're comparing you to all 10, you're interviewing with 10 other companies perhaps, and you're comparing them. And you may love this job and think, I could totally go to work here, and then end up going to work somewhere else. I remember when I went to work at Procter & Gamble, I had an offer from Southeast Bank in Miami. I had an offer from Nalco Chemical, and the people at Nalco were just some of the neatest people I've ever met. I had such a great interview, and they were so sorry that I went to Procter & Gamble. And Procter was a great choice for me, and I could have totally loved Nalco. I totally could have. And I would have been totally happy there. And I still said no, and I went for the offer. That's a good thing. It's good to have an embarrassment of riches, to have more than one offer. And the way you do that is interview as if you want one badly.
Yeah.
Now look, if everybody else you meet is scrupulous and lovely, don't judge the entire organization for one idiot that's there. Yeah, if it was an ugly pattern with this one person and he'd be your boss and you don't think the opportunity is worth it, okay, say no. We respect that completely. We're glad you got in a situation where you got an offer and then you were smart enough to recognize that the analysis of an offer is different than the process of getting it. They're two different things. And if it's bad enough, it's really bad enough, sure, tell HR about it. Okay. But the chances of that are 1 in a million.
Yeah. Now, you said earlier that people will be a little bit surprised about what's legal and what's not. So you give us some guidance there.
Yeah, this will always be one of my favorite parts of any cast. Well, first of all, we can't give specific guidance. I'm going to disappoint some people here. We can't give specific guidance on what's legal and what's not, because we have listeners in 186 countries and territories, and what's legal in one country is not in another. Folks, I promise you, in the U.S., if you're a U.S. manager and you're interviewing, or if you're just a candidate interviewing, and you think U.S. Employment law is complex, you know nothing. The U.S. employment law is probably the least onerous and difficult compared to other places in the world. And look, frankly, we hope people will be listening to this cast in 20 years. I know people laugh at us for trying very hard, but in a world that's as temporal as the world is today, we really shoot for timeless casts and not timely casts, right? So in 20 years, who knows what'll be legal then? We can give you a guide to how the law works. Most laws are fundamentally structured this way, but the protected classes in different places are different. Okay. So some general overview here. Okay. If you apply for many government jobs, you're going to be given an application form and a sheet which asks for ethnic background, age, disabilities, and a host of other questions, which in general you would think would be illegal. And you'd ask yourself, why is the government agency allowed to ask them? It's not, as many people think, that they have an exception because they're the government. In fact, most government agencies, in our experience, follow the letter and the spirit of the law and go further than most commercial enterprises in this regard. And here is the nub for all of you that you've got to learn. This is the dirty little secret that every candidate, very few candidates know. In fact, I would argue the only people who know this are HR people and recruiters and interviewers. And the answer is this, folks: no interview question is illegal, period. I'm going to say that again. No interview question is illegal. We call this illegal interview questions because we know our audience, and we know that you think there are illegal interview questions. There are not any illegal interview questions in the world, period. None. Okay? Asking the question is not illegal. What's illegal is gaining information from a question which you use to discriminate based on a law that says you cannot discriminate based on information about age or sex or religion or something like that. So it's not illegal for the government to ask. As long as the agency or the company or the government asks every candidate their ethnic background, but doesn't make hiring decisions based on that information, they're fine. What normally happens is that information sheet doesn't have your name on it, just the identification for the job. It's separated from the rest of your information in a lot of places almost as soon as you submit it, and it's entered into a database. The results are amalgamated and they're aggregated and used to make sure that the agency is attracting a wide range of candidates and to make sure that there are not patterns that are happening relative to hiring unrelated to one particular case. I'm telling you again, no question is illegal. In order for you to be in an interview and to believe that a question is legal, first of all, you're wrong. You have to assume intent to discriminate on the part of the company. Since the question isn't illegal, saying to someone the question is illegal, let me tell you, if you're talking to an experienced HR person, they're going to feel slapped. What you're saying to them is, I'm an idiot, because in fact the question is not illegal, but worse, you're implying that they are a discriminating person, that they discriminate against the law. And an HR person, particularly a senior HR person who are terribly careful about sensibilities in the world, would just be, they would be mortified. My God, how could you possibly imagine that? So, as an interviewee, right, the important thing to remember about interview questions and legality: it is illegal for an employer to recruit new employees in a way that discriminates against them because of a selection for their race, color, religion,